Hey everyone, it's Jack, and today I'm going to install the DK Window Manager desktop environment on Linux Mint. Wahoo! In my last video, we did an install of i3 Window Manager on Mint. I've gotten a few requests to do the DK Window Manager as well. I'm recording this segment after I did the install of the DK and did my video and everything. After I got DK all set up and everything on Linux Mint, what I'm using here is the LMDE version, which is the Debian. Linux Mint LMDE is based on Debian 12 Bookworm, which is the stable Debian. And we use Polybar here in our install with DK. And on Debian stable, the latest version of Polybar is 3.6.3. And so there was one caveat that I wasn't aware of, and that is in your Polybar, you won't have the system tray. That was the only thing. If you don't care about the system tray, not a big deal. Otherwise, I would go with Linux Mint Ubuntu. That way you'll get the later version of Polybar, which is 3.7.1, I believe. And or use Debian Testing. There's lots of distros out there. You can use straight Debian Testing, or you can use a distro like Sparky Linux, which I really like. Sparky comes in both Bookworm and Testing, and the Testing ISO is rolling and it's very cool, and it's an ISO that I use. I really like Sparky, so that's one of my favorites. Debian-based Linux for sure. So those are some things to consider before we get started. Just wanted to let you know that all up front. But a spoiler alert, during my tutorial, I did actually build from source on the GitHub website, Polybar 3.7.1, I believe it is, or 0. I forgot what the latest version is, but I did build the source out there, and it did work in this LMDE, and I got my sys tray, but I had to give up a couple things like the audio module, and I think the IP or Ethernet module disappeared from the Polybar. And so you're going to have some things that don't work if you do that. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. If you want the sys tray, then, go with Ubuntu or Debian Testing or above. If you want to do this on a Debian spin, the regular Linux Mint. And in my last video, I used Linux Mint XFCE. This is Cinnamon because LMDE only comes in the Cinnamon, but it doesn't matter. DK is just fine on a Cinnamon spin, so there's no issues there. And I guess that's enough of my babbling, so let's just get into it. So here I am, I'm on my LMDE Linux Mint desktop, and it's all looking good here. This is a fresh install, and I'm just running the update manager here real quick because you want to have all your updates before we start all this, and everything is up to date because I updated this off camera to save a little time. So once that's out of the way, I'm just going to open up my web browser here. And then in my web browser, I'm going to go out DK desktop website here, and I just hit clone up there. And then I'm going to go into my terminal and drag that over, and then we'll just kind of expand that a little bit. And I'm going to type in sudo apt install git because we got to install git in order to clone this. I'm going to add Rofi in here too, and maybe some other things here like D menu, things that we'll probably want to use here, and Polybar. So we'll start off with git Rofi, D menu, Polybar, and gedit, so we can edit the files as well. And then I'll just authenticate, and that'll kind of get us a little pre-start here before we do this. And it looks like it's on suckless tools in place of D menu, or not in place of it, but for that. So that's actually what you want to specify rather than D menu. So now here in the instructions, here's some dependencies we need to add here and for Debian and Ubuntu. So I just copied that. Then I'm going to do a sudo apt install and then paste that in. And I was using Control-Shift-V to paste that in. And so that installed just fine. Now that we got our dependencies, I'm just going to hit the clone button here, and then I'm going to copy this git clone code there, and then just Control-Shift-V again and paste that in. And let's magnify that a bit. There we go. So we got it cloned, so now I'm going to change into my DK directory and list it, and it looks like we just want to run make because everything's there. Now sudo make install and hit enter, and then that's all there is to it. We got the DK desktop installed, but it's not all. Now we want to bring over the config files. So I'm going to open up our file manager here. And this is the Nemo file manager because, like I said earlier, we're in Cinnamon desktop. And so I'm going to show my hidden files. I hit Control H, but you can also go up here and check the show hidden files there under view. And so now I want to go into my .config folder. And then what we want to do is create a DK folder here to bring our config files in. But I can really do all that from the console, and we got it conveniently listed out here in the instructions. Also shows how you can uninstall and update your GitHub install too. Oh yeah, we also need for our key binding service is the sxhkd. So let's do that. That will handle our keybind. So I'm going to do a sudo apt install sxhkd and hit enter. And then that'll install that because that's pretty handy. And let's see what else we got here. Okay, here's where we can bring over our example config files. So I'm just going to highlight and copy this whole thing here. And then right-click, copy, or you can do Control-C. Go in the terminal and then Control-Shift-V again and paste that in. Just going to paste that whole thing in, hit enter, and now it should have copied all those config files for our dkrc and our sxhkdrc. What a tongue twister. And it created our folder for us. So very cool. There's our dkrc file, which has our different rules and so forth. I need to go into permissions here, and it's already checked for being executable, so that's good. The sxhkdrc doesn't really have to be executable, but you want to make sure your dkrc is. So that's good. And now I'm going to make a new folder here in our .config and call it Polybar, because that's where we're going to put our Polybar config. And so I'm going to copy that over. So I'm going to do cp/usr/share/doc/examples, Polybar, and then examples /config.ini, I believe is what it is. Then we want to put that into our home folder, which is denoted by a tilde /.config/polybar. And now I should have copied that over. And so if I go into our Polybar folder, there it is. So that's our sample config ini. Yeah, let's open it first. And we'll open it with gedit. Actually, I meant to install Genie. Oh well, I guess I'll do that too later, like right now later. So let me just double check here. Yeah, so I didn't see Genie there. I guess I must have hit gedit. I put gedit in that list instead of Genie. I got it mixed up. So yeah, I did, didn't I? Okay, so yes, let's just backspace here and we'll do a sudo apt install Genie instead. And add that in there. That's a little bit more of a robust editor. One of my personal favorites anyway. And so now if I go back over here into our .config and let's go in our DK folder, right click on dkrc. Actually, let's go into our sxhkd blah blah rc folder. These are our key bindings, and I think I want to kind of set those up first before we even log in. Here's our launcher, which is denoted by Alt-P, and all these seem to be Alt instead of Super. I'm kind of comfortable with using the Super key instead of the Alt, but that's okay. That's cool. Alt-Shift-Q to log out. Restart DK. Okay. So I'm just kind of going over to see what the essentials are. This is to close a window, and I'm changing that to Super Q instead of Alt-Q. And then for our terminal, I think I just want that Super Return. So I'm going to change that. And then ST I don't have installed, so I'm going to use the terminal that we have here, which I think that's GNOME terminal. And yeah, just double checking to make sure ST is not on there. So let me just open another terminal here, go up to help and about. And that is, so that's GNOME terminal, however you want to call it. So let's go back in here and I'm going to replace ST with GNOME terminal. GNOME-terminal, and then that way that'll open up instead. Nice. And so I'm going to add in a new line here, and I also want to make a reference here. I do use a hashtag to make a comment, and I want to have a keyboard shortcut for Nemo. I think I'll do my OCD there, capitalize. Super plus, usually I use T for Thunar, but I guess I'll use the N here for Nemo. And then, of course, we gotta add Firefox as well. So I'm gonna do super plus B for browser. That's easy for me to remember. Oh, I forgot to denote Nemo here. So we gotta tell it what to launch. And same with Firefox, so I'm gonna put Firefox in here. So super B will launch Firefox, super N for Nemo, and what else? Maybe Genie. So I'll do a hashtag again, denote Genie, and then super plus E for edit, I guess. And then we'll call Genie with that. And I think that ought to get us off to a good start. We got Genie, Firefox, something to call up our file manager. Cool. So now let's go in our dkrc. I'm going to do an open with Genie here and kind of see what's going on in here. I want to make a reference to my Polybar, and I can see that it's not really calling anything else. So after it calls our sxhkdrc file, I'm going to put in a reference for Polybar. So I'm going to put in Polybar double hyphen reload, and then we're going to call to a config file directly. So I just use -c, and then ~/.config. This is the path to our Polybar config. Polybar/config.ini. And so that's pointing to our config file that we imported there for Polybar. So that should load our Polybar in. And that's where our workspace settings is 6 by default. I'm going to take this other code though, to make this more modular, I guess. I'm going to take this and just cut that code out. And then I'm going to put that in a separate file. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go File, New, and then just paste it into this new blank file. And then we're going to call this autostart. And so I'm going to jump down here and I'm going to make this an executable script. So I'm going to copy this bin/sh and paste it here. But instead of sh, I want to make that a bash file. So we'll just make that bash instead. And then I'm going to save it. And then we'll just name it autostart.sh. And then we'll save it in our .config DK folder. And that's the DK folder I think I built. So don't want to go in there. I need to right click and show hidden files. There we go. That's better. So in our .config/DK folder, we're going to save it there. And so now we have an autostart.sh. Excellent. So that'll call to our Polybar and so far and so forth. And then that way, if we want to call any kind of services for our Polybar, we can do it in our autostart instead of the RC, which is primarily for your rules and so forth. But you can see the first line that's not commented is DK command set num.ws, which is our workspaces, to 6. And I'm putting in the path to our autostart because we want that to load. So .config/dk/autostart.sh. And so that'll load first, and then it'll load all the rest of this stuff. Cool. And like I said, we got 6 there. It looks like the default. You can change that if you want more workspaces, like 9, 10 workspaces or less. So now this is going to be called first because we put that path back here in the dkrc file listed on top. So I think that would be cool. So I'm going to close that. And I think we're ready to log out here and see if DK Desktop actually loads now that we got the preliminaries out of the way. So I'm going to hit this button here and log out. And let's see what happens. Okay, so if I click on this icon, you can see we got a new session here, which is our DK. So I'm going to click that. And then I'm going to log in and hope for the best. And I didn't get the best. Okay, something didn't load right. So I guess I'll go into an alternate session. Control-Alt, like F2, will put you into an alternate session screen. Since I'm on a virtual machine, I'll have to call the keys here from the top. But Yeah, I'm pressing key bindings right now, like Super E and Super C and all that. Nothing works, so I'm going to an alternate session, Control Alt F2, and I'm just going to log into the terminal. So now we got a terminal session, and I just typed in DK and it doesn't even want to do anything. So I'm going to go into change our directory, cd.config/DK, and just take a look at our stuff, and let's try to manually run autostart.sh and see what happens. See if it gives us an error. So /autostart.sh and permission denied. Ah, no wonder. I forgot to make it executable. So we'll do a chmod plus x space and then autostart.sh, and then that'll make our file executable. Now let's just run DK and see what it does. Autostart.sh, and there we go. So now it's actually doing something. I'm just going to reboot here, and then we'll try our luck again. So there's our LMDE boot screen. Okay, we're back at our boot screen, or our login. Let's log in and see what happens. Yay! It works. Okay, so that problem was easy to solve. I see we only have one workspace displaying up there, though. That's strange. There should be 6 up there in the polybar. So I guess that's an issue we might have to address. But I just hit Super E, and we're in our Genie editor here. And let's see. I noticed that this code is bracketed in. That's kind of weird. And our dkrc. Over here, everything else looks fine as far as I can tell. Polybar reload. I don't see anything that jumps out at me. The compound command to redirect all output, that's, to me, seems a little fishy. So I think I'm just going to take out all that logging code. That doesn't really seem necessary. And the closing bracket there. So I think I'll just delete that, see what happens. And then let's scroll back up to the top. And I'm going to take out that bracket there. And so that way everything just starts out with the DK command to set our workspaces. That's actually getting called after our polybar, which is in our autostart.sh file. So maybe I'll actually cut that out and then paste it at the bottom of the file so that the workspaces get loaded first and then it calls the autostart. That might help too. So Control S to save, and then Alt Shift Q, and that'll reload our autobar. Oh, Alt Shift Q, no, that logs me out. Whoops. Okay, I meant to do Alt Shift R to reload the dkrc, but there we go. We got all 6 showing up, so cool. Solve that problem. Now we can see 6 workspaces, which is what is being called in our dkrc at the top. Nice. And so here we got our floating window rules, or I mean our window rules, not floating. But floating state is like the first example there. But if we scroll down here, we got an example for Firefox. And this one will make it actually open up in a specific workspace and then follow it there. So if I change WS to =1 to 2 instead, then it'll open Firefox. So if I hit Control S to save it, and focus equals true means that it'll bring us over. So I did a Alt Shift R. When I hit Super B, then it should launch Firefox in Workspace 2, which it did. Excellent. And then it followed it over. If you don't want to follow an app over when it launches, then just set focus equals false. Or I think you can just leave it out and have no focus on it. Designation. So cool. So now Firefox is opening up in Workspace 2. Excellent. And let me jump over here to our autostart.sh file because, oh yeah, I wanted to let you know I added in sleep1 and then 2 ampersands, which is and. That way, if we add things to the polybar, it gives it time to load. So it's just something to kind of make it more efficient. But I want to kill the polybar here when it first loads the autostart.sh, because you notice at the top when I hit Alt-Shift-R, it made a space between my window up there. That's because it was trying to load another instance of the polybar. So I'm going to do a kill all Polybar and then -Q. And then that way it'll kill the existing instance of Polybar if it exists. And then that way we won't get that space. So now Alt-Shift-R and we refresh, and now that gap is gone because it's only loading one instance of the Polybar. Even though it was loading two instances, one was invisible because it can only show one at a time there, as far as I know. So cool, that'll make that a little cleaner, the whole Polybar management. Nice. So now the background here is kind of sparse. I'm thinking maybe we should add like a background and make it prettier. So I'm going to open up my terminal here. And let's do a sudo apt install Fey. Fey is like a picture viewer, but it's also used, we can use it to manage our background. So I'm going to just install that real quick. All installed. Oh yeah, that's right. I installed that already off camera. I forgot. So, okay, Fey is installed. So now what I can do is back here in our autostart.sh, we can call to load a background image to give us something that looks nice. But first we need an image. So I'm going to go out to wallpaperswide.com. That's a really nice site for getting the latest wallpapers or any wallpapers. And they give them to you in all kinds of resolutions. So really like this site. It's great for that. And so I just click here for the latest, and I won't spend too much time looking for a wallpaper, but we'll just kind of scroll down and see what looks cool. There's a lot of cool ones in here. Let's pop over to the next page and see what's next. We'll close that. And more cool wallpapers. Yeah, I'm liking these. I kind of like that forest one there with the blue. That looks pretty cool. So I'm going to hit that and then click on the download button there and then close that. And so now I should have that in my downloads folder. So I'm going to do a super N and open up our Nemo file manager and go into our downloads folder, and there it is. So first of all, I'm going to copy the name of that. So I'm going to just highlight that, Control C to copy that. And then I'm going to just take this and drag it into our pictures folder. And actually, I think I'll make another folder, right click and create this called wallpapers. And then I'm going to drag that in there just to keep things neat and tidy. And so now we're going to be able to call to that using Fey. So in our auto start, I'm just going to type in Fey and then $BG-fill. And then let's see, background fill, and then the path to our picture file. So // which is our home folder, pictures, uppercase, P, /wallpapers, / and then I'm going to do Control V and paste in the name of the file that we copied there earlier, and now Control S to save. And so now that should load. So if I do like a Alt-Shift-R and reload our, there we go, our auto start and our dkrc, then it loaded in our background. So nice. Now every time we start, we'll have that background there. So very cool. That takes care of our background. Nice. I'm liking it. So let's see. Let's go back into our, actually, let me open up our sxhkdrc file. So I'm going to go back into .config/dk and right click on this and open up our sxhkdrc file. I want to come down here and let's go down here to where we have our follow, because I'm not sure how you like switch workspaces with the keyboard. And it looks like they're using the Alt key instead of the super key. So if I want to change workspaces, I guess it would be Alt 1, 2, 3, 4 and to follow. So we got our view send follow all in one nice neat little thing here. So Alt Shift bracket right. I guess that's what you would do if you want to move something. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of confusing for me because I'm just used to using Alt Shift and the number. So, I mean Super Shift. So I kind of put these over there. So now I'm just Super Shift bracket left to move it back. Nice. So yeah, I really kind of want to make that with the super keys. So just going to move that back as well. Alt Shift bracket left. So let's change under here on line 86 here, our view, send, or follow to a workspace by number. Let's make that super instead of alt. So I'm going to change that. And then all the other commands are just built in. I hit Control S to save, and now Alt Shift X will reload. And now when I do super shift 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so forth, it'll change. Yay! So that was easy. And now let's go in here, and I want to kind of remove the gap. When I have a single window, I'm going to disable the gap and border around a window in a single layout. So let's do gaps and borders disable gaps and borders when only a single window. And then to do that, we want to do our DK command set, or dkcmd, and then smart underscore gap equals false. So we're going to turn it off. And then our smart underscore border also we're going to equal false. And then that way it'll kind of turn both of those off when you're in a single layout. Then Control S to save, and Alt Shift R to kind of reload our dkrc file. And then I also want to eliminate the gaps around the polybar as well. And so to do that, I'm going to back out and go into .config/polybar folder and open our config.ini for our polybar. And if we scroll down here a little bit in our config file, we can see like the cosmetic stuff on top, like our color variables and all that. And back here in our dkrc, I just want to change that to layout. OCD, I know, but just in case I forget later. So anyways, back here, we got our border size. It's 2 points. So I hit that to 0 and Control S to save, and you can see it updated dynamically when I saved it, and I got rid of the gaps. If you want simply a smaller gap, you can like make that 1 point or something, or a bigger gap if you want. But I like no gap there. It just looks nicer to me. And so border size, that's where you adjust that if you don't want any spaces around between your polybar there, status bar. And date, that's our clock there, and when you click on it, it shows the date, but I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to put that in the center because I just kind of like it there. So I'm going to type in modules-center, and then ER, I guess, and then equals space date. And then if I hit Control S to save it, now we got our clock in the middle. Hooray! So that's a little nicer there. And then of course we got all this other stuff like our up there volume control and all that. Now let's put in a sys tray. I want to see if we can't maybe have a sys tray there, and it's not showing up. Try sys tray. Nope. See what this module's designated as. So yeah, I'm not even seeing tray in here. That's kind of weird. It should have a tray module designation in here, and it's not. That's kind of freaky. I guess I can manually put it in. So I'm just going to do a bracket, create a section here for module/tray, and then close the bracket. And then we want to do type equals internal/workspaces. I mean tray. Workspaces. I'm looking below me. Okay, so now let's do like a tray dash size and make it, let's say 20. I think would be good there. And I don't know if I really need much else. Maybe a tray padding, I guess. I could just set to like 2. And then we could try like tray hyphen foreground. We want to have our colors match with the other modules, so foreground equals, and then we'll just come up here and copy the colors foreground, and just kind of paste that in there. And then we'll do the same thing down here with trade hyphen background equals, and we'll just repaste that in, change it to background, and then format background equals, you know, I forgot to put in the $sign bracket before. I should have just copied that whole thing. That was kind of dumb. Okay, and then close the bracket. So now I got to add those in here. So $bracket, bracket, bracket. Excellent. Control S to save, and we still don't have a sys tray. What's up? Okay. I'm going to go into my auto start and try to load a few things in here. So I'm going to type in tray items in our comment. And then let's just put something in here like we want our Mint update anyway. So let's put in Mint update hyphen launcher. And then it should show a little updater in the system tray. A little ampersand there to. And then nm hyphen applet. That's like our network manager applet with a little ampersand to launch it. Alt-Shift-R and no sys tray. That's kind of shocking. I've never had an issue with a sys tray. I'm going to add in numlock x on and then ampersand. And I don't know if I have this, but I'm going to just put in blueberry hyphen tray just to see if something shows up. Of course, numlock x I don't think would show up actually, but I just want it to load because I use it. Alt-Shift-R and nothing. Okay, so no tray items. Just logged out here with Alt-Shift-Q to see if that helped, but it didn't. Okay, so I'm out to the Polybar website here on the GitHub site just to kind of see what's up here. And I opened my browser up next to and then the editor next to it. So I can kind of figure out what's going on. So I'm in our wiki right now for Polybar, just to kind of take a look at the info. There's our tray, so yeah, that kind of looks all right. Oh, version 3.70. I wonder if oh yeah, we're using, holy crap. Yeah, this is Bookworm, so we might not even have the latest version in here. So let me just do a Polybar double hyphen version. And there we go, 3.6.3. No wonder in 3.6.3, they didn't even have the tray feature. That's why it's not even in the config file. I should have known that. I feel like a putz. Okay, so that's what's going on. Yeah, we can't use the sys tray. And 3.7.0, I don't think is even available in the repos. So I guess if you want the sys tray, we could actually try building this from source. Not something I would recommend on Bookworm though, because it's probably going to break some other items in the Polybar. We might lose something. We might gain our sys tray, but we might lose some other modules that won't work right. But yeah, okay. So I was just looking here to see if it would like install from the backports, but it's not available in the backport. I thought that was worth a try though. That's in the documentation there. I just copied and pasted that. So yeah, I guess the only other option would be to build it. And again, in Bookworm, I probably wouldn't recommend this, but I think I'm going to build it just to see what happens. Otherwise, I would much rather use Debian Testing, because Debian Testing does have the newer version in here. But I'm going to copy this. These are our dependencies to build it. So Control-Shift-V, and that'll install all those dependencies that we had there on the Polybar website. And let's just try building it though. I mean, no guts, no glory. We can always go back if it's a disaster. So I'm going to do a git clone. It's probably going to have some glib6 issues though, I'm thinking. Because I'm sure there's something that's not going to work, but hey, you never know. Okay, let's go into our Polybar. This is the Polybar folder that we just cloned here from the GitHub repo. So let's see what else we got to do. Okay, so we got to create a build directory, change into it, run make, and then this other make command, and then make install to install it. Okay, that sounds pretty simple. Let's go for it. So let's make directory mkdir build. Let's change into it. And now let's just type in make, I think it is. Let me just double check. CMake. That's what it is, right. Okay, CMake. And no path. Oh, I guess I was supposed to specify a folder. I didn't. Dot. Okay. Yeah, we gotta go back directory there for the CMake to refer to the configure file, I think. Dot. All right, so now that we got that, let's just copy this make line here. Super Shift V again, or Control Shift V again, and let that do its magic. And then once that's all done building, we're practically home free. Okay, so now I'm going to do a sudo apt auto remove polybar because we have our old polybar installed. So I want to take that out, our 3.63, and make a bold move and see what happens. So let's do a sudo make install, and that'll install polybar, and with a little luck, we won't get any smoke coming out of my computer. So let's type in polybar _ version, and now it's showing 3.7.2. Wow, that's like super latest and greatest. So that's the most current. Alt-Shift-R to load it, and it loaded. Wow! And we got a status bar. Nice. Wow. I do see some other things missing though. Looks like our volume control. But let's go into Rofi Launcher now. And here's our huge collection of Rofi-based custom applets and launchers. So we're going to create a nice looking launcher for Rofi. But back to the status bar. Those other things missing, probably you got to live without those if you want the status bar. So yeah, I would probably not do what I just did. And if you're on a more up-to-date Debian, like using Debian Testing or Unstable, I have Debian Testing on mine. I actually went from Linux Mint Ubuntu to Testing. But if you want to use Linux Mint Ubuntu, you should be just fine. That should give you a very recent version of Polybar, at least 3.7.1, I would think. So yeah, just a little add-on there about the Polybar. But that other stuff, actually, I probably wouldn't have wanted on there anyways, except for the volume control. That I kind of like having. So kind of sucked not having volume, but I'm pretty sure it's a glib6 because in testing they use a newer version of glib, and so I'm sure there's some kind of conflicts going on there. Yeah, that's kind of a trade-off if you have to use LMDE to do this. You want to either give up the sys tray or live without something else. So here's our launchers. And I did this at our last video here, our i3 video. In our last video, we used type 3 for our Rofi launcher, and I'm good with that again. So down here, this is our clone repository code. I just copied that, clicking the button, Control-Shift-V to paste it into our terminal. And it gave us I want to get out of here because I'm still in my Polybar folder. I don't want to clone it into there. So just CD to home. There we go, that's better. Control-Shift-V, let's do that again. $ command not found. Oh, somehow it copied the $. Wow. All right, let me arrow up, get rid of the $, and then it's working fine now. Excellent. So what else do we got to do? Okay, so now we want to chmod make our setup executable. So I did a Control-C, and so we're going to change into our Rofi folder. And I pasted that in, and it looks good. All right, so now I should be able to run .setup, actually ./setup.sh, but that should be a /, so let me put that in there. Cool. All right, so that's all there is to the setup. Super easy to open up our editor again in our sxhkdrc file. I'm going to scroll down to where our apps are, and I'm just going to add another one in here for our Rofi menu. And so let's do a comment and call it Rofi menu. And let's launch that with super D. That's what I'm used to. Super plus D. And then now we just want to call to our Rofi Launcher in our type folder. So type 3 is what I kind of like. It's kind of like a full screen version. So if I jump out and I go into press Super N and open up our file manager here for nemo.config Rofi. And in our Rofi folder, we got launchers. So we're going to go in there and then type 3. So we want to call this launcher.sh file here in the type 3 folder. And then that'll give us this style that I like. So I'm going to open that launcher.sh, and style is 10 here by default. But I like a more full screen look here, so I'm going to go and change this 10 to style 3, I think it was. I think that's one I used in my i3 video, or maybe it was 2. And then here, I'm going to copy this path. So I'm going to highlight that, copy it, go over to our sxh file here, Control V that in, paste it. And so it should be calling to this and then slash launchers.sh. So that's the file we want to call. So if I come back here, open or call that file when I hit Super D, we'll save that. And now Alt-Shift-X to reload our config here. And okay, this might be another result of running Debian Bookworm. So again, a case for running Debian Testing or higher, like unstable even. I like testing, but let's go in there and just edit that line. So let me do Super D again, see what that was calling to. Line 54. And that's in our config.rc file in our Rofi folder. So I'm going to just back up a couple levels here to Rofi. There's our config.rc. So let me open that up. And let's just see if we can hack that out of there. I don't know what it's calling to, but hopefully it's just something we can hack. So Super D, it's line 54. Okay. So I'll hit escape to get rid of that. And let's scroll down to 54. Run.remote. Oh, it's calling a fallback icon. All right. That looks hackable. Nice. So I think I'm just going to comment that out of there. And I'm just going to take this closing comment bracket and just drag it down here. And then that'll comment out that whole section. There we go. That's better. So Super D now opens up our D menu. Nice. Cool. Now in our i3 video, we put transparency in there. And so I'd kind of like to have some transparency in there instead of having it 100% opaque. And so to do that, we actually got a call to PyCom, which I think I installed at the beginning of the video. So I hit Control S there to save it. And, I think the style here is 2. So yeah, that's good. So in our autostart.sh, I'm going to come back here. And in our tray items, I'm going to add in PyCom. And I just got that on top there. Control S to save. So now it should load PyCom when that config loads. So I just hit Alt-Shift-R and nothing. Yeah, did I do Alt-Shift-R? I think I did. So let me just jump into style. Let me just check our opacity here in our style-2.rasc file. And so 10%, so that should be really quite clear. I'm going to change that to 80%. Looks like my insert key got bumped. So 80% and then colon. We'll make that 80% opaque. Control S to save. Let me try reloading the Super D. Yeah, see that didn't work. So let me try reloading the Alt-Shift-R again. See if that'll reload PyCom. I might not have hit that the first time correctly. There we go. Okay, so now we got PyCom enabled. Excellent. And 80% still seems a little high. I think I might actually, too much transparency. So I'm going to see if we have that at 10, the default, it should be almost clear, which it is. It's very clear. To me, too clear. So I'm going to beef that up to 90% opaque and see if that's a little bit darker. There we go. Yeah, for me, that's kind of the level of transparency I like. Just a little bit, but not too much. 90 works. So I'm going to leave that at 90. Okay, now let's go out and let's find our weather module, because I want to put a weather module in here. So I'm going to Google search for Polybar weather.py. That's a script that'll give us a weather thing. That'll kind of make our Polybar status bar cool. Modules weather.py. I think that's what I'm looking for in our Polybar config. So yeah, that's the weather module. You got to have openweathermap.org. You need an account. It's a free account, and you can get an API key there. So that's the only caveat to this, but it's not really any big deal. I just downloaded that weather.py file, and so I'm going to go to my downloads folder, and I'm just going to cut that, Control X, and then let's go back to our Polybar folder and our .config and then Polybar. Got lost there for a minute. And let's just paste that right in there. We could make a scripts folder if we wanted to, if we had a bunch of scripts, but with just this one, it's fine. So I'm going to open it up with Genie, and then we got to update our information. First of all, we need an API key. And so with this key here, this default doesn't really work as far as I know. So we would want to use your own API. And so I'm just going to copy the URL there from the config file and paste it into our browser. And that should take us out to api.openweathermap.org/API is the redirect. So here, all you got to do is create a free account if you don't have one. Otherwise, just sign in right here. And then that'll take you into the API section. And then you just click the API on the menu there. And then you can hit API keys. And then when you click there, it'll show you an API key that you can just simply copy and then paste into your config file. Easy peasy. And you would just paste it right into here, and that would take care of that. And then here, if you don't want to use the metric for units, if you don't like Celsius, we can change that to imperial, and that'll give us Fahrenheit. And then our unit key would change from C to F, and then that would take care of that. The next thing we would want to do is get our city ID. I'm not sure what the default is there, but just go up here into our search bar on Open Weather Map and type in a city like Niceville. And it didn't like me putting in the state, I guess. So let's take out Florida and try that. There we go. Okay, so there's a link to Niceville. So let me click on that. And then here at the end of our link, our URL, we got this city code. So I'm going to Control C and copy that, come back into our weather.py, and we'll just paste that in right there. Like that, Control V. Excellent. So that's looking good. Let's Control S to save that. And then let's back out to Polybar config and then hit config. And then here's the example config file on this website. And so if I scroll down, I'll do a search here for weather. There we go. So here's the weather module in this example config file. So I'm just going to highlight that whole set of code right there, Control C to copy. And then let's come up here and scroll down in our config file and just find a spot to stick that in. And you can really put it anywhere. Control V to paste that in. And so now we got our weather code. And so it's really all kind of done for us, which is nice. Here on the exec, though, we want to update it to our actual path. For me, it would be .config/polybar. So, and of course, our home folder. And I'm just going to take out that code there and save it and see what we get. Still don't see the weather. Oh yeah, I got to add it in. That's kind of dumb. So let's go here to modules right, and let's put it in first. So let's type in weather in space, and then Control S to save it. And there it is, except it's not working. Weather py dot something not found. Something's not found maybe in the weather. Oh, there we go. Okay, so refreshed. I did a Alt-Shift-R and refreshed our bar, reloaded it, and it's happy. But that's not the name of our city. So what's up with that? Okay, that's why. So we want to change our units to imperial and the URL, and then change our language to EN, which is English. So it was in there in French by default. No wonder. Control S to save it. And I guess I'll need to Alt-Shift-R and reload Polybar. There we go. That's better. Broken clouds. And 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So that worked. Yes. So now we got a weather thingy up there in our Polybar. That's cool. Now what I'd like to be able to do is click on that. So let's see if the YAD is installed, and it wasn't. So I'm going to install YAD, but to load in our wttr.in like I did in our i3 video, I need to build YAD from source because we need to open up an HTML dialog box. But first I'm going to assign the click event. So click -left equals, and then I'm going to put in our YAD code that we need to open up the proper dialog box. So I'm going to type in YAD :HTML $URI equals, and then we're going to put in the URI of our WTTRN. So HTTPS in single quotes, //wttr.in/Niceville, or in your case, put in the name of your town. And I think it's got to be uppercase, first letter. And then close the quote. Then we want to put in center fixed, and then set our width at 1,000. And we need double hyphens before those two. Double hyphen height, and let's make that 680. And then double hyphen timeout. So we're going to have this timeout after 60 seconds, and then double hyphen timeout indicator equals right. That'll put buttons on the right, like our OK and cancel buttons. And so I think that's all we need. And so that'll open up our YAD window. Let's save that. But now we got to install YAD. So that way when we click on this, it'll open up YAD. But like I said, we can't just simply install it from the repos because it won't have the HTML dialog feature and it won't work. So we got to build it from source. That's kind of a pain. But that never stopped me before. And let me just copy and paste that in here, just into the terminal, and just hit enter. Yeah. So I just wanted to double confirm that YAD was not in there. And like I said, if I install it from the repos, that's almost certainly not going to work. It works if you're in Arch, though. You can like install it from the AUR and it'll build it for you there. But here on, I just typed in YAD GitHub. And so if we go to the GitHub site, it tells you how to build it. And if you've never done it before, it can be a little bit of a pain, but you got me here, so we're good. So I copied the git clone code here, and I'm just going to Control-Shift-V and paste that in. And type in git clone before that. There we go. And so I'm going to hit enter. And so now it made a folder called YAD. So let's change into it and go back to our YAD website, and let's see what else we got to do here. So we got to follow some steps, and I've done this before, so you can just follow along with me and we'll be good. So first of all, we need to install this here for generating build scripts. So auto reconf, and then -ivf, and then in intl tools, and then here we need WebKit. So I believe that's GTK WebKit, GTK 4.1. So that's good. We can install that too in the source view just for good measure. I already installed that. I accidentally paused my video and didn't unpause it. So I already installed that, by the way. So what I did essentially was I did a sudo apt install, and then I copy and pasted the build essential, automake, and intl tool. However, build essential was already installed, so actually I didn't even need that. But the automake and the intl tool did have to be there, so yeah. So that's what I did, and then it installed all that, and then I was good. So then the next step, we want to do an apt search, because I can't remember exactly the name of that, but it's libwebkit, I think, and I believe it's 4.1. Okay, so it's libwebkit 2 GTK 4.1-0, and so I want to grab that and the DEV files, which is almost the same name except for the 0 on it. So I'm going to do a Control-Shift copy to copy that from the terminal. And then I can do a sudo apt install, and then I'm going to do a Control-Shift-V to paste that in the terminal, and then space, and then paste it in again, Control-Shift-V, and then I'm going to take off the 0 and the hyphen and do a hyphen dev instead, and then that'll put in the dev files, the development files, and the actual GTK WebKit. So that's cool. So now let's do a sudo s and go in as a root user, super, and I'm going to do an auto reconf inf, and then double ampersand for and this is the command that was from the website there, and then intl tool eyes, and configure AC is required. Oh, I forgot the hyphen in IVF. Whoops. Okay. So let's exit out of there and back out. Yeah, I think I was okay. So let me go back into YAD, ls, yeah, so everything's there. Cool. Okay, so let me do this again, sudo s, and then we're still good. And then up arrow to reload that, but I'm going to go back over here and put the hyphen in. That's all I had to do, was just add the hyphen. I just wanted to back out just to make sure everything was cool. There we go. So we got past that stage. So .configure now is our next thing. Double hyphen, and now we want to enable hyphen HTML, and also double hyphen enable underscore source view, which for good measure. Okay, so we'll let that run. And there we go. I think we're good now. So let me do a make and let it make it. And then after that, I think it's make install. And then hit enter. And now that it's installed, let's exit out of our root mode there. So we're back to a normal user. Click on it and it worked. Wahoo! I am a genius. So there we go. There's our extended forecast for Niceville, and we got a 3-day forecast there by default, and it brought up a perfect HTML dialog window for Niceville using WTTR. So that's just a little extra click feature there, just for coolness sake, I guess. Actually, if you didn't want to mess with openweathermap.org, you could just like put a label up there that says Niceville weather or something, and then attach the ad window to it. If you don't like making an account in OpenWeatherMap, but for as little effort as it is, I'd rather have the account. So Shift D, I'm going to go in here and let's change our appearance. Oh, I didn't install lxappearance? Wow. Okay, I guess that's something I forgot. So let's just go back into my terminal here, and I'm going to do a sudo, let's change out a YAD. Then I'm going to do a sudo apt install lxappearance and hit enter here. And we'll install that real quick, and that way we can just kind of change the theme in our DK desktop. And this is a nice, easy way to do it. So Shift D, now if I type in LX, I got my customized look and feel here. So I can bring this up, and so by default, it looks like it's at the rally setting there. So let's try something else like mint purple, or how about dark purple? There we go. That looks good. Let me apply that. Looks like I got to reload Nemo, so I'm just going to close that real quick. Shift Q, and then Shift N to launch it. And there we go. So now it's dark, but it's got some cheesy looking icons. So let's make those look better. Breeze dark, that's decent. But I kind of like the mint icons, actually. We got brown and orange, purple. Probably go with purple. Let's hit apply. And again, I'll have to quit out of Nemo, close it, and then reopen it again. Shift N. And there we go. Nice. So we got our purple icons. And now let's do our mouse cursor. Let's change that. I kind of like Breeze is good. That's not bad. Or if you like a more traditional mouse, you can use something else. Like, Zit. There's Xcursor. That kind of looks more traditional. And they have dark and light, so you can have a white mouse too if you want. And there's our DMZ black, DMZ yellow. Those are very Windows-like cursors. So nice. Yeah, I'm good with that. I guess I'll stick with the black. If you have trouble seeing the cursor, of course, white's a good color on a dark theme. Then here we got our font settings, which I'm just going to leave at the defaults, and same with the others. But if sound effects bother you, you can turn them off right there. That's cool. So yeah, I think there we go. I think that should adjust our appearance. Here where you can kind of customize your different color accents if you want to do that there. I like going with the theme colors, so I'm good with that. So that takes care of lxappearance. Nice. And so, yeah, I think we covered everything. This video is getting kind of long, so I think I'm going to cut it right here. This ought to get you off to a really good start on DK. I guess it's time to give you my 2 cents, maybe 3 cents, but this worked out really great. I mean, the only little hiccup I ran into really was the Polybar. I forgot that LMDE is based on Bookworm, which is not going to give you the latest version of Polybar, something I didn't even think about starting on, going into all this. So, yeah, I guess that's the one thing you got to kind of keep in mind is the whole Polybar thing. I think I'm going to probably redo my intro and just kind of mention that at the beginning of this video and mention that if you want the latest Polybar and you want the sys tray and all that and everything else to work, you probably want to go with the Ubuntu version of Linux Mint, just the regular 21.04. I've installed it in that version in the past and had no issues with it at all. So that would be the answer for the whole Polybar thing. You know, either that or use Debian. I went to Linux Mint like a month and a half ago, I think. It was a while back. And then I kind of changed to Debian using Sparky. Sparky's my favorite. Debian Testing, I use the testing version rather than the stable. I've been super happy with Sparky, and for me, Sparky's like a perfect match, just, you know, for me. Because I thought it was a little bit more stable than Linux Mint, because I was having tiny little issues in Mint with the updater, for example, wasn't working most of the time, and just tiny little annoyances that were not really deal killers, but enough to push me into Sparky. So Debian Testing, there's no issues at all either. So my recommendation, Linux Mint Ubuntu, the regular Ubuntu version, and I used originally the XFCE desktop, and I had i3 on it, and then I even tested it with DK, and it was fine. So yes, other than that, I think this was a relatively flawless install. I think having some of those problems like all the desktops not showing up in your Polybar have really got a lot of people stuck, maybe not knowing that they should remove some of that extraneous code that was in there. I think that's what solved it, looking back. But yes, this is a gorgeous, DK is really such a nice desktop. I still like i3 just a hair better. I don't know why, but I'm using i3 right now. But DK is just so cool that I can't think of anything I don't like about it. DK is an excellent desktop, and I still just kind of switch back and forth when I get bored. I got the same Polybar config. That's a nice thing with the Polybars. You can just use your same config file in i3 or DK or BSPWM. It doesn't matter, and it's all good. So yeah, a Polybar fan right here. And with that, I guess I better quit babbling. Try DK. This is great. You'll love it if you're a window manager aficionado, and if you're not, it'll give you something to do on a boring rainy afternoon. So there you go. I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, don't forget to leave that thumbs up and hit subscribe. You know you want to do it if you haven't already, so click it. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.